My name is Lele Kahalipunawang, born in Honolulu, Oahu, and I am Hawaiian, English, Scotch, French, German, Irish, Chinese, Japanese, and Samoan.
That is a mouthful.
It is. Growing up in Hawaii, had its ups and downs. But all in all, I'm glad I grew up here because I grew up around family, and growing up around family really secures your place in the world. I think family helps mold you to be who you become later on in life, and it's important to have family around you, at least positive family. So I'm glad I grew up in a place like this because it was so rich with culture and positive influences, and taught me a lot of things that I would need later on in life that I think not a lot of other places offer. And I mean, yeah, like I said, had its ups and downs, but I think in the long run, I turned out all right. Growing up in a Polynesian household was fun, complicated. I grew up mostly around my mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. I was heavily influenced by the women in my family. Definitely a matriarchal family. And there was things that, in a Hawaiian family at least, because my mom's side is all Hawaiian. So being raised in a Hawaiian culture and a Hawaiian atmosphere and a Hawaiian home, I feel like there were things that I could and could not do. Like that, there's how do I put it into perspective? There's something about being a Hawaiian woman, raised by Hawaiian women actually, that I guess family would want to protect. It's hard to explain for me, but I feel like there's certain things that Hawaiian women are expected to be. You're expected to clean the house and take care of the children and cook and clean and stuff like that. And there were certain levels of expectations growing up that as a young girl, was instilled in you. Don't talk back. You have to always present yourself nicely in public. You have to look proper and you have to speak properly. And I think that's more of a product of my generation than anything. Having to speak correctly and not speaking pidgin, because that was my mom was heavily into that. She was very strict about that. Always speaking properly and never using pidgin. And because I was such a tomboy, sometimes my mom would have a hard time getting me to dress like a girl, because I wanted to be comfortable and wear long shorts and t-shirt and just be tomboyish. But my mom was like, no, you're supposed to dress like a girl. So yeah, I think I don't know if I can't say that all Hawaiian households are like that with their girls, but for me it kind of was, and it may not have been their intention, but that's just how it came out for me. And then on top of that, expecting to carry on traditions, the women in my family, they ran a shop. My mom still runs the shop, and we teach feather lei making, and so I was expected to learn that. I was expected to learn the business. So there's just things within a Hawaiian woman's world that was expected of you, and that wasn't always easy to carry. Sometimes it felt like a burden, and sometimes I always felt like I couldn't live up to those expectations. Still don't, but we do what we can.
On that note, cultural customs and traditions, are you familiar with yours?
Fairly familiar. I went to Hawaiian immersion from preschool. I went to Punanaleo, and then went into Kulakaiapuni from kindergarten to 6th grade. And within the constructs of Kaiapuni, I learned how to oli, I learned how to hula, I learned, of course, olelo Hawaii, that was a big thing. That was the whole point. But then I also learned, how to play ukulele. That was a mandatory as well, learning to play ukulele, and singing and such. So I learned a lot of the chants at a young age. I was in hula. I've had several teachers, several kumu that I learned hula from and learned oli from. But then I didn't carry it into my adulthood, unfortunately. I also learned the aspect from, the lehulu making from my family, and learning how it used to be done in ancient times, and then learning the modern version of that today. So I think I'm okay. I don't know everything. I mean, there's always room to learn more, but I think I'm okay. I didn't like not growing up around children. My mom and my uncle, siblings, my uncle never had kids. And I grew up on Kauai, even though I was born here on Oahu. I grew up on Kauai. And I was always surrounded by adults all my life. And, when you grow up around adults, you tend to take on adult things. So I grew up very fast, and I feel like I didn't quite have the childhood that I would have wanted for myself. I didn't grow up around kids, and I wish I did. I'm an only child, by my mother, I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings to grow with and learn and fight and stuff like that. All the things that you would have in a household full of kids. I also had a very strict father. My mom married another man who had adopted me, and which is why I have the last name Wong, because my father was Hawaiian Chinese. And he gave me his last name. But with a Hawaiian Chinese man come the unfortunate stereotypes of a Hawaiian Chinese man, where they're very strict, grew up old school, and my father disciplined me in ways that would probably put somebody in jail nowadays, for child abuse and stuff like that. But that's how a lot of us grew up. We got dirty lickings from our parents. Sometimes we deserved it. But, there was some things that he used as punishment that were cruel and unusual.
Do you feel comfortable giving examples?
Sure. Say for example, I think most Polynesian kids have had this kind of punishment. If you lied, you either get soap in your mouth or you get chili pepper water or something like that. So my dad did the chili pepper water thing. He did Tabasco sauce mainly. Mainly, he used Tabasco sauce, but he would make me take shots of Tabasco, and then he would dip his fingers into Tabasco sauce and rub it all into my gums and under my tongue and all everywhere, to make sure he caught every nook and cranny in my mouth. And I'd sit there and I'd have to deal with the pain, and it traumatized me so much that the smell of Tabasco makes me throw up. Can't stand it. Another one was for those who had, Asian Hawaiian parents, you had to kneel on rice, and my father would put rice in the corner and make me kneel on it, sometimes for hours, all because I couldn't finish my dinner because it had tomatoes on it and in it, and I don't like tomatoes. So he would make me kneel in the corner until I actually ate it. So those are some of the examples I've had with that.
Is there anything that you would have wanted to talk to your mother about I know you have a good relationship with your mom.
No.
And I don't know if you have talked to her about things that have gone on when you were younger.
Actually, just very recently. Not even 3 weeks ago. My mom was working, and I don't know how it happened, but she called me and we were talking, and for some odd reason, the conversation over the phone, with her just being at work and me being at home, and then on her way from work back home, we're talking on the phone, and even when she was home, she didn't come in to say hi to me. She actually went downstairs and stayed on the phone with me. And we had probably about a 2-hour long conversation and talking about just everything. And I had actually finally let it out that she had, so there was this, let's just fuck it, just get it all out. There was an incident that had happened. My mom, she was telling me that one day I'd come home and there was blood on my pants, and she wasn't sure, but she knew it wasn't what I said it was, because I had come home and all the back of my shorts, my board shorts, had all blood down it. And she had asked me, she's like, what happened? And I immediately said, oh, it must be my ma'i. I didn't notice I had it. Ran to the bathroom, cleaned myself up. And so I had revealed to her that I was raped that night. And she was quiet over the phone and she just let me talk. And afterwards, after I said my piece, she's like, why didn't you tell me before? I said, how am I gonna explain that to my mother? Like, this was years ago. Oh no, please don't cry. Please don't cry.
Jesus Christ.
It was, again, fuck it, let's just get it out of the bag. So I was about to turn 14, and I was out with some friends. We were at this tavern. A friend of mine was a dishwasher, and we were waiting for him to finish work. And there was this guy who I kind of had befriended. He was a friend of a friend. He was older than me. He was probably about 17. And he took a liking to me. And it was the first time a guy actually looked at me like that. And being a very impressionable 13-and-a-half-year-old, I took to it. And it felt nice. because I was always teased and I was always bullied for being a big girl and for always just being a little awkward. I was always an awkward kid. But because this guy looked my way, I went with it. Anyway, we were just hanging out and one of my friends had to leave and he was my ride. So the guy was like, hey, I'll take her home, don't worry about it. And he's like, he looks at me, he's like, you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. So my buddy left and he and I were talking some more, and then my friend had called and said that he had forgot something in his car. So he's like, you want to come with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So got in his car. We drove from town, probably about 15, 20 minutes towards the east side of the island, drop off something that my friend forgot. And on the way back, he was holding my hand in the car and such, and it was nice, it was fine. Anyway, we come back into town, and instead of taking a left to go back to the tavern, we took a right. And I was, at that point, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, maybe he's taking me home. But instead, he takes a turn and parks in the parking lot of Napa Auto Parts. And stops the car, gets out of the driver's seat, comes to the passenger side, and gets in. So, as kids do, we made out, and it was nice and stuff. But then alarms started to go off in my head when my shirt came off and pants were starting to come down. And the whole time I was telling him, I don't know if we should do this. And he said, no, it's okay, I really like you. You know, you can trust me. So I was like, okay. And I remember at that point, he pulled my seat back till I could see the back of the window, the back window. And I'm looking up, and there's a street light above. And I remember looking at it, and as he pushes himself on me, I remember immediately putting my hands out and telling him no. And he goes, if you like me, you'll do this. And without even me saying anything, he goes. And then I remember feeling the pain and the pain was the biggest thing for me. So he kept going, even if I was screaming and stuff. And I remember looking at the clock when it all started, and it was 8:10 at night. And then the next time I remember looking at the clock, it was 9:10. So we had gone about it for an hour. And when he finally finished, he got back into the driver's seat, and he's like, you're not going to tell anybody, right? I said, no, I'm not going to tell anybody. So he takes me home, and I got out of the car. I remember reaching into the passenger window because change had fallen out of my shorts, and grabbed it. And he's like, I'll see you later. It's like, yeah, I'll see you later. So got out of the car, walked upstairs to my house, opened the door, came in, and my mom was up, and that's where we began. So I remember running to the bathroom, and trying to clean myself up, and having to use the bathroom hurt a lot more. But I cleaned myself up as best as I could and came back outside as if nothing happened, and was playing rummy with my mom. So as I'm telling my mom this story, I felt like there was a part of me that felt better, but at the same time kind of almost wanting to yell at my mom because she had to have known something. And she had to have said something to me. She could have said something to me that would have made me confide in her earlier. Maybe something could have been done about it at the time. You know, part of me wanted to just scream at her. It's like, didn't you notice anything? And, you know, why did you not stop me and say, you know, what happened? Talk to me, you know. I'm not gonna judge you, you know, something that a mom would do, right? And then thinking back on that, my mom was my age now that I am. You know, she was 34, 35 years old. And I'm still a kid myself. I still act like a fucking kid. So I can understand why my mom didn't say anything at the time. Because she was probably still a kid herself and probably didn't know how to ask me. So, sorry, downer.
Girl, why you always making me cry when I come visit you? Look.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, but it's okay. It's a long time ago. Last I heard, he was in jail. So, but anyway, what was the question?
Yeah, well, you answered the question.
Yes, I answered the question.
On to the next one. So how did you, as an adult, how have you dealt with this?
Through theater. Theater is my outlet. Theater is my therapy. It lets me deal with the emotions I didn't know how to deal with then. I don't know how it works for all actors. All actors are different, I believe. But some people deal with their trauma through comedy. I deal with my trauma through drama. I want to go through it. I want to be able to feel every facet of it. So I know how that feels, and it's releasing to me. It's cathartic. It allows me to feel the feelings that I feel in a safe space without being judged. And that's not always the healthiest thing to do in theater, but, you know, it helped me. And I mean, that's how I deal with anything that is traumatic in my past and in my present. It allows me to, it lets me breathe in it and then let it go. That's why I love theater so much. I mean, it saved my life. Theater saved my life.